All right, welcome back to PC Building Simulator. Welcome back to the Overclockers UK workshop. In the last video, in the last free build video, we built this. This is the Super RGB PC air-cooled edition. So we've done this. We've done a Super RGB PC a couple times before, but they're both water-cooled versions. So we want to make this one. I wanted to make this one, and it's air-cooled, and it's only got one GPU. Oh my gosh, it's crazy! But I actually think it looks pretty sweet. It looks pretty RGB, like just kind of nuts. So that was a lot of fun to build. But in this episode, we are going to do a fan build. We've not done a fan build in a little while, and I've been wanting to get back into it. And I recently got a request from BJE Chief about doing a fan build, and we are going to take on his challenge. So he goes on to say, I know you're doing this thing where we can request for you to build a PC in-game, and I'm building a PC quite soon, and I thought it'd be quite cool if you could build it and give me a second opinion on the system. So we're going to do that. We're going to build it, and then I'm going to kind of, well, I've got some input. I've got some ideas, some sort of, I don't know, small amount of 2 cents that I can throw into this. Not that you have to really take it, but just a couple ideas. But he goes on to say, the parts, Ryzen 2700X, for the CPU, 2070 Super for the GPU. For the motherboard, I'm MSI B450 Gaming Pro Carbon Max Wi-Fi motherboard. We got 2 sticks of 8 gig Viper Steel 3200 megahertz for the RAM, a Seagate Barracuda Compute 2 terabyte hard drive for the storage. The case is a Phanteks Eclipse P400A RGB, and then it's all powered by a GIGABYTE 750 watt 80 plus gold power supply. So, and then he also says, thank you for all the amazing content as well. I love the esports series, especially smiley face with sunglasses. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're enjoying it. All right, so we're going to dive into this. There's, of course, you know, this being PC Building Simulator, we can't always recreate everything perfectly, so we will get close on a few things. We will do well on a few things for sure, but we'll kind of explain a few things. So I guess we can go ahead and get this out of the way. That was actually an old fan build. We can put that away. Old comment build, fan build. I don't know what I'm saying. All right. So we got to start with the case, right? So the request is for a Phanteks, or the build that actually BJE Chief is planning is looking at the Phanteks Eclipse P400A RGB, and Phanteks is not in the game. Sadly, it's too bad. I've actually built in the Eclipse P300 in real life. I built a PC for someone, we did a full build, and I did it in the P300 Eclipse case, and I really like that case, though I gotta say they have really done some great things with the P400. And I'll show the P400 here on screen so you can see it, just to get an idea of what it looks like. So what's nice about the P400A compared to the P300, which I built in, is that Phanteks has notoriously not been great at airflow. My brother also has a Phanteks case, one of their older ones, and also not amazing at airflow because they used to do that solid front panel, but now in the P400A and some of their newer cases, they've done mesh front panels. They replaced the front panel with a mesh version. So really the P400A is actually a pretty good airflow case from what I can tell. And thank goodness, because Phanteks needed to change some of that. So, you can kind of see it. It's obviously the RGB version, so it comes with 3 120mm RGB fans in the front, and you get a fan controller and RGB controller built in, so that's pretty nice. Actually, some pretty good features for a case that's like on sale right now on Amazon for like $82 in the US. So I would say the case is cool. I actually really like Phanteks' aesthetic, and now that they're kind of fixing their airflow issues, I would say, yeah, man, like that sounds awesome. Totally, go for it. Looks really cool. But back to our build, we don't have Phanteks in the game. Sad. So I've looked through some of the cases, and I wanted to find a case that had a very similar layout, which is not that hard because it's a very traditional like ATX layout, but also one that was a little more airflow focused, maybe had like a perforated front panel. So I've landed on using Fractal's Meshify C. And they have a few versions. They have one with a solid panel. They've got a white one. Then they've got 2 black ones with a lighter tempered glass and a darker tempered glass. And we're going to go with the dark tempered glass because that would be more similar probably to the P400A. It's a little bit darker. I don't really think it's actually pretty dark here. No, I'd say that's pretty similar. So what I like about this is it's very similar generally to the P400A. The layout is basically identical. You've got room for, although it doesn't really look like you could, well, let's see. If we pull up the side panel here really quick, I'm curious. Okay, so actually what's cool is you can pull up this little piece of the basement. Oh, and you can pull out these hard drive cables. Well, you might need them in your build, but if you didn't, you could pull these out And actually, maybe you can still squeak another 120 fan here, but the P400A might be a little easier at getting 3 120s up front. It comes with them. But otherwise, the layout's basically the same. You can do 2 140s up top. You can do a 280 rad up there if you want. You can just do 2 140 fans. You can do 2 120 fans, whatever. Same. I think it's the same setup with the backup. Same setup with the back end. What am I saying? That's like but you can do a 120 in the Meshify C. I don't know if you can do just a. It looks like just a 120 in the Fractal case, probably too. Maybe you can do a 140. I'm not sure. But anyway, so the layout is very similar. So that's why we're choosing this. Also because it has a mesh front panel. So similar concept to the Phanteks case. Very airflow focused. And same setup on the top. So very, airflow focused, similar dimension ATX case. So that's why we're going with the Fractal Meshify C. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get this pulled apart and get things ready to roll. I don't know what this panel is for. Maybe some like 2.5 inch SSDs can go up there, possibly. So that's cool. I'm gonna try to go ahead and put 3 RGB 120 fans up in the front, just because that's what the RGB version of Phanteks case comes with. We'll see if I can do it. I don't know if these drive cages are gonna get in the way. We're obviously going to need one of them. I'm thinking that's the only place a 3.5 inch hard drive is gonna fit in this case. So that might be a problem. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, let's go to our motherboard. So the request was for a MSI B450 Gaming Pro Carbon Max Wi-Fi. We will go ahead and look at all the B450s, and you will see that we are not in motherboards. But once we are in motherboards, you'll see that this is all the B450s we have. We've got a couple from MSI. No, three. We've got the B450M Mortar Max, which is a micro ATX. We've got a mini ITX in the B450i Gaming Plus AC. And then we've got their B450 Tomahawk, which is a normal ATX board. So the Tomahawk is actually pretty darn similar to the board that was requested, the Gaming Pro Carbon Max Wi-Fi. It's so long. It's maybe a little bit nicer. Like I was looking, the one that was requested is about 160 on Newegg. This is actually on sale right now for 165 on Newegg. This is in the US again, US dollars. Normally this is 180, so it might be a little bit nicer, but it's definitely the closest we're gonna get. So I'm gonna go with the B450 Tomahawk for the motherboard. Again, not a perfect match, but pretty darn close. Pretty darn close. And both of those motherboards support 1st, 2nd, and 3rd gen Ryzen, I believe. So we're gonna be all good there. Obviously, we're looking at 2nd gen Ryzen for this build, but you could go up to 3rd gen. I assume you could probably do like a BIOS flashback with a thumb drive if you needed to get the BIOS working. That's usually how they work. Hey, look, it even says BIOS flashback right there. So that's actually kind of cool. But yeah, that's pretty normal for a lot of these B450 400 series motherboards. So, okay, 2700X. That is the CPU that we requested. So I'm again not in CPU cooling. It's close, but it's not right. It's not right. 2700X. So 2700X is about $215 right now. I was looking on PC Part Picker, and I was like, I don't know, like, it's weird, like 3rd gen Ryzen's out. We're about to get the next gen Ryzen Zen 3 with the 5000 series. So like there's the 5600X that's going to come out. The 5600X is going to be $300 instead of $215. It's not 8 core. It's only 6 core. It might be sort of comparable. I don't know. But I also understand like that's $75 more that you might not want to spend. So also looked at the 3700X. So from 3rd gen, but it's, well, actually, I looked at the 3600. Yeah, the 3700X. I think was. Now I gotta look. Wait, I think I've got this one. The 3700X is like $310. So, I guess it's all to say. I think the 2700X, like if you're trying to kind of fit in that price point, I think it makes sense. Like, and if 8 cores is important to you, I totally get it. I think the 3600X would also be a great CPU if you're just looking at gaming, but like if you feel like you need the extra 2 cores, yeah, I get it. The 2700X, that's fine. So if you can spend a little more money, like, jump into the 3rd gen, sure. Jump into the 5000 series, sure. But at some point, it's like, then you're going to start being like, well, is my motherboard good enough? No, I don't know. So I think it's okay. I think you're okay where you're at. You're going to be pretty balanced with the GPU that you requested the 2070 Super as well. So I think it's not bad. But yeah, CPU cooler, we didn't specifically specify CPU cooler, so I'm going to go with like a good but affordable air cooler. I think that's a good place to land. Don't spend a ton of money on AIO if you don't want to. Like, honestly, I would spend more money getting a better CPU than putting an AIO in this build, personally. I have an AIO, but I really would recommend, like, there's some really great air coolers that are significantly cheaper. So I think, honestly, you do like a Be Quiet, like Pure Rock. You know, you could go up to like a Dark Arc Pro, but I probably wouldn't really need it for a 2700X. I'm just gonna go with a Pure Rock. I was hoping there's like an all blacked out version. Ooh, Dark Rock 4. That one's kind of cool. I don't know how much that costs in the game or how much it costs in real life. $75. That's a pretty expensive air cooler, but I like that it's black. You wouldn't have to go with something quite as substantial, probably. You know, get a beefier CPU before you do that. That just barely is short enough to clear the glass. It's impressive. Okay, I'm gonna throw in some RGB Case Fans while we're in here, actually. And I'm guessing since you're opting for the RGB version, you were kind of like hoping to get, you know, the RGB look, so we'll go for that. These would be the included case fans. What should we go with? Who has a good RGB fan that would look okay in this? I was looking at the ones that are in the Phanteks case. They look a lot like Fractal's case. They have fit case fans, like they have a black frame with white blades. Like, you know, they're pretty standard. Does Fractal not have? I was actually kind of hoping maybe Fractal had their RGB fans in the game, but maybe they don't. Deep cools are pretty similar, honestly. I'm gonna go deep cools, and these are gonna be the included fans. Yeah, those are pretty similar to the fans that are in the Phanteks case. So we're gonna do 1, 2, 3 120s up front. Yeah, that drive cage is gonna be a problem. Darn, I don't know if we're gonna have anywhere else we can put a hard drive. His request was for a 2 terabyte Seagate drive. I think that's great. I think as a game storage drive, I think that's great. Yeah, we're just gonna, I guess we'll just move to storage. I can't get the third fan there because of the drive cage. That's obviously not an issue in the Phanteks case, I'm guessing, since, you know, it comes with the 3 fans. I think maybe their drive cages are, now I'm like looking, I'm like, is it a thing? There's no good photos of underneath the power supply basement. Yeah, I think they have theirs scooched up a little bit more. I think there's more of a gap there. That's kind of silly. I just need that to scooch a little bit over here. Can we just scooch that a little bit? Is that not a thing? Oh, wouldn't that be cool if I could just like, bloop. I can remove the entire drive there, but like I need to be able to install it back in, scooched over a little bit. Again, not an issue in the Phanteks case. Let's just pretend that there's a third RGB fan up front, because that's what would happen in the Phanteks case. We can't do it in this one. So, okay, let's move to the storage. So, request was 2 terabyte Seagate Barracuda hard drive. So, okay, we can do that. That's great. And I think that's 2 terabyte drive is a great, like bulk storage, throw your games on there. Totally. Like I have 2 1 terabyte drives in mine. I wish I had a 2 terabyte and wasn't using 2 drive bays with 2 separate 1 terabyte drives, but whatever. So I think that's great. I would recommend, if you can, before you do this build, get an SSD to install the OS on. And it doesn't have to be an M.2 drive, honestly. If you don't want to spend the money, like don't worry about NVMe, it's not that big a deal. Like get a 2.5-inch SATA drive. You don't have to spend a ton of money. Like they are actually kind of shockingly cheap. But I would recommend doing this before you do the actual build, because that way you can install your OS ahead of time on the SSD and not have to install it on the physical, you know, the 3.5-inch drive, get tired of, you know, that, and then come back and have to redo your entire Windows install and all that. So I would really recommend, if you can make it happen, try to do it. And you don't have to go big. Like I would say 500 gigs. And you can even get like Seagate, no. SanDisk, like SanDisk has super affordable little 500 gig hard drive, like SSD. I don't even know how much they are, but they're pretty cheap. But you could just throw that in there. Like I'm looking for the Kingston drive. Can I, is there not, there are Kingston drives in here now. I know this. This is a thing. Okay, Kingston, there we go. Yes. Okay, so like you could just do like a Kingston 480, you know, slap her on the back, install your OS on that. you will be glad you did, because it will be faster. Even though it's SATA, it'll still be faster for everything OS related. And then put all your games on this hard drive. And now, I don't know what you're using your build for, but that would be my recommendation if you're looking at like gaming. Having your OS on an SSD is super, super worthwhile. Like even my my SSD in my computer, my main SSD that the OS is on, it's a SATA M.2 drive, and it's 500 gigs, and it's fine. It's totally fine. So don't install my games there, because you'd fill it up, you know, potentially fairly quickly. But it's great. It works great. So that would be my recommendation. If you can do it, I would just try to put some money into that personally. So, okay, that's storage. Let's do power supply quick. So request was for a GIGABYTE 750 watt. GIGABYTE has a couple power supplies in here. They're the Aorus version. I don't know if yours would be. But there you go. Hopefully the one you're getting is modular. If you can, modular is super nice. This is a modular power supply that we're going to put in. If you can get a modular, I think it's worth it. It's super nice. It looks a little better. It's easier to use. And sometimes you have better connectivity too. 750 watts, nice. You're going to have plenty of headroom there. 750 watts, good for, you know, top of the line RTX right now, if you're not doing any crazy like power unlocking and whatnot, or custom BIOS modding or whatever, you'll be fine with 750 watt. I actually have an 850 watt in mine. I thought it was a 750, but it's 850, so that's exciting. But yeah, 750 is a great place to land. You'll be good for a while with that. Okay, so that's power supply. Let's do our RAM quick. So mentioned 2 sticks of 8 gig Viper Steel Series at 3200 megahertz. The great thing here is that RAM is in the game, and I actually think it's quite nice looking. It's gonna look really good with this build. So here we go, 8 gig, 3200 megahertz, and I'd say, yeah, if you can find that RAM at a price that makes sense to you, that sounds great. 3200 megahertz is a good speed. You could obviously like go faster, but I don't think you need to break the bank and go crazy. 3200 megahertz is gonna do really well. So sounds great. And when you install it, you should look at your motherboard motherboard manual, motherboard manual, and see which slots you need to put in for dual channel. Typically, it's these 2 slots, but it can vary. So check it. But you'll want to do something like that, most likely. Look at how good that RAM looks at this motherboard. I know this is the Tomahawk, but the other motherboard is very similar. The Carbon Pro Gaming Wi-Fi, whatever, Max, something. There's a bunch of words in there. But yeah, that looks super good. So approved is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so that's everything so far. Again, we have 3 intake fans on the front would be the plan. So 3 intake fans on the front. Does the Phanteks case come with a rear fan? Now I'm quickly looking. It looks like no. The Phanteks case does not come with a rear fan. So with 3 intake fans, all 140s, I would recommend personally putting a couple 120s up top and a 120 up back. Then you're equalized. I don't think you aren't going to want to have more exhaust than intake, because then you get vacuum. Let me think about this. You want positive pressure in the case if you can, so that you don't pull in a bunch of dust. Is that right? I don't know. You want to generally be pretty equal if you can. So I would probably, if it was me, I'd probably do 2 120s up top, use that convection, pull hot air out the top, and then get a 120 at the back to be able to pull hot air out the back. So you might want to buy like 3 120 case fans. You don't have to do it right away. Like if you want to just rock the build for a while and see how it does, do that, but then maybe come back and install some other fans later. So I'm going to go and do that now, I guess. And I can't decide. This is going to be in a case with 3 RGB fans in the front. So it's like, do we go all in on RGB and put it up top? Do we just do black fans? I don't know. I don't know where to go. To be honest, I don't know where to go. But I'm kind of just going to say let's keep the fans the same. And this might be a little RGB puke. Wow, it's going to make me take out the CPU cooler. Really? Are you sure? Are you sure that we have to do that? I don't want to do that. Like that. That dust filter up top, it's so nice. Okay, well, I'm gonna take off this cooler really quick, I guess. Yep. Fine. We're gonna do it for the good of the cause, I guess. Okay, anyway, let's go ahead and thermal paste. There it is. I would not skip thermal paste in your build. That would be so sad. And then let's get our big fat chunky boy Dark Rock 4 in here again. Beautiful. Okay, so Something like that, maybe. And maybe you don't want to go RGB. It's going to be a little RGB heavy by doing that. But you will have 3 RGB fans up front, so I don't know. You can decide if you want to match. You can decide if you just want to go black or white or whatever. It's your choice. Really, it's your choice. I'm going to actually put this little... Oops, nope. I'm going to put this other panel back because there's no point, because it's not helping me because I still can't fit a fan in there, which is super, super sad. Darn you, Fractal. Okay, so we've got everything in here but the GPU. So the request was for a 2070 Super, which I think the 2070 Super is a great card. I don't know how much you are seeing the 2070 Super for and how that works out. And a lot of this depends too, what country you're in really affects it. I'm in the US where I feel like things are generally a little more affordable. There are some countries where things are extremely expensive. So it might not make sense, but I was just looking at 2070 Super prices in the US, and 2070 Supers in the US are too expensive, given that the 3070 is coming out at the end of the month, right? It's going for sale very soon here, and hopefully the 3070 availability is better than the 3080 and 3090. So I guess what I'm saying is the 3070 is supposed to be $500 MSRP. You will be able to, well, theoretically, buy at least the Founders Edition card, like EVGA's, some of their cheap cards, some like GIGABYTE's cheaper cards for $500, like basically MSRP. And I would say, I don't know if you can find a 2070 Super that's cheaper than $500 and that makes sense to you, cool, do that. But if you're looking at the comparable price, I would say go for a 3070. 3070 is going to outperform a 2070 Super. So there is no 3070 in the game. There's no 3000 series RTX cards in the game yet. But I'm going to put a 2070 Super in it, since there's not. But in real life, you might want to consider, can I do a 3070? Does that make sense? Or can I nab like a 2070 Super used for a really great price? Or can I, whatever your situation is. I would say though, as far as the balance goes, a 2700X with a 2070 Super, cool. I think that would totally make sense. That's going to actually balance out pretty well. So let's see, which one's going to look good in here though? That's the question. The Strix card would look very nice. It will be the most expensive, most likely in real life. The Strix cards are very pricey. Definitely not the GIGABYTE with a white shroud. I'm not really feeling the auras because that, you know, they're like bronze, zinc color. Yeah, we're definitely not putting Zotac Mini in there because it's dorky. And I don't love the shroud on the EVGA. So yeah, okay, that was easy. We're gonna go with the expensive Asus ROG 2070 Super. So there you go. That's all the components, and it should power on. If it doesn't, I'm sad. But there you go. That is all of that built in the Fractal Meshify C, as opposed to the Phanteks Eclipse P400A RGB. So similar, but different, but similar. So you could expect it to look something like this, depending, obviously, your air cooler is going to affect, your cooler is going to affect what this looks like a lot. Your fan choice is going to affect it a lot. But the motherboard, the RAM, that's going to look really, really, really similar. Seems like kind of a slow install there for being on an SSD game. I don't know. I don't know about that one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get this set up, get some stuff installed. We'll run some benchmarks. We'll maybe tweak the RGB a little bit, and then we'll wrap it up from there. So big thing you want to do if you do build this computer, build any computer really, is make sure, you know, when you first set it up and everything's good and working and things are stable, come back into the BIOS and set the XMP settings on your RAM. So without doing that, we're basically getting our RAM at 2400 megahertz, which is sad because you paid for more than that. So you flip this on and you'll be good to go. And one other thing you might want to do when you're looking at RAM and picking out a motherboard and those two things together, pretty much all RAM vendors are going to have a preferred RAM list, like a compatibility list. And you might want to take a peek at that and make sure that your RAM is on there just to make sure you're not going to have issues. This used to be a lot worse. Like first gen Ryzen was notoriously finicky with RAM stability and RAM speed stability, and it was pretty obnoxious. But still, it's worth looking at if you're going to spend the money on it. So definitely look at that. And then when you build it and you're happy with it and it's working and it's stable, come in here and turn on XMP and get some of your get your full RAM speed going out of the build. You know, yeah, do that. So we got everything set up here and installed. We've got our RAM overclock set, right? And we ran 3D Mark, got a 9796, so that's a 9956 on the graphics, and an 8981 on the CPU. to give you some sort of comparison for what this is worth in this game. So 9,796. This, as a reminder, this is a i9 10940X. I wanted to use the newest generation Intel chip in this one, and then a 2080 Ti, and it's got a 12,519. So almost 3,000 points better, but significantly more expensive, obviously. So I don't know. 3D Mark scores don't mean a ton to me, really, honestly. I know a lot of you guys appreciate them, so I run them for you. They don't mean a ton for me. Exactly. I wish there were like game benchmarks in the game that we could actually run, but there you go. There's your 3D Mark score. So we also ran OCCT, CPU sitting at 73C max, and GPU, 54, so totally fine. There's no way the GPU would be at 54 if it was pegged, though. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but there's no way. At least not in my experience. All right, so there you go. I hope that helps BJE Chief, and I hope you enjoyed this video and enjoy getting to see your build sort of come to life. Obviously not in the exact correct case, and but at least I think it's pretty similar. This is kind of what you're going to be looking at. This is a pretty similar form factor and setup, and obviously I guess I could actually like put the whole thing back together, maybe, possibly. Yeah, I could do that. So I'll put our side panel on, put the front panel on. We should actually on dust filter, yeah, on dust filter for filtering out the air coming into the power supply. The dust filter up top, that will be filtering out the air going out of the case, which is sort of less useful, but dust settling on top of the case, I guess, keeps it from coming in. Dust filter in the front, and this is actually pretty much how that's going to look in, well, that's funny. It really changes a lot when you zoom in or out in this game. You would be able to see, though, the RGB coming through that perforation a little bit. And if you look at the Phanteks, you can kind of see the same sort of thing. But yeah, so that's how it looks. And then they both have glass side panels, and actually very similar glass side panels that extend all the way down past the power supply basement. And there you go. So that's kind of what your computer would look like. Just, picture the Phanteks case and not this one, but pretty similar. Pretty similar setup. So hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully you all enjoyed watching this. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. Okay, thanks. See ya.